record, and then we're gonna start popping in. I'll have my video on, assuming that the quality works well. So let's start in the order that's on, and we'll go from there. Awesome. First off, I just want to say I'm feeling really good about today's call. You guys are all doing fucking fabulous. I'm loving the conversations that are happening daily inside the chat. You guys are killing it. You guys are slaying it. And I'm so excited to talk to y'all today. So, yay. All right.
Hey.
Hello. Wow, you can do reactions now? I just did a thumbs up. Not sure where it went. Anyways.
Oh,
hi,
good. Hi. Yeah, there's a thumbs up on your thing.
Oh, cool.
I can see thumbs up.
And clap. There we go.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Well, how are you, Lev?
Yeah, I'm really good. So yeah, I've been feeling much better, and it was really cool like that I just had somebody reach out, like I was saying, for one-on-one, and then like I had a call with her yesterday because we chatted via email, and then we had a call, and it sounds all really good. I'm going to hear from her today.
Yay.
So I've been doing the normal things that I do with clients, where I just like, I let it go, and I just kind of say a prayer of like for the highest good, and then like I just start, acting as if she's signed up, but I'm not like saying that it has to be her, like it's going to be somebody else if it's not somebody better if it's not her. So that's like what I do. And so yeah, I feel good about that.
Yay, that's amazing. And I love that because it really embodies such a powerful intention of like, because I do the same thing whenever anyone reaches out about any of my offers. I'm like, yeah, it'd be amazing if they joined, and I hold space for people to join. But I feel like I like energetically give people permission to do whatever they need to do, and then they typically come around. So that's amazing. Very, very good.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna obviously just like leave it at that, and I'm just continuing that energy work, and that feels really good. Other than that, I was like, I put my academy out, and I've been promoting that a little bit. My PayPal came up with this thing of like something wrong with something on my website, and then I was like, can I even receive payments at the moment? And then I tested it myself, and it worked, but at one point I was like, oh, it's not even working, I may as well not promote the course today, because what if people have been trying to pay for it and they can't? And then I was like, okay. And then I tried it, and I tested it out with my credit card, and then it did work. And then I was like, oh, okay, so that just means people aren't signing up at the moment. And then I was like, oh, okay, like I've had a few sign-ups, like it's not like nobody's signing up, but it was more like I haven't been pushing like the only like this many hours left to join or whatever. And then I was kind of about to do that, and then the payment thing happened, and then I didn't. And then I was like, that's okay, I'll wake up tomorrow and I can still like send out an email and say it's closing or whatever. So I was like, it's okay. And then when I like woke up this morning and I looked at like it's the 20th, then like my body goes tight, and then I was like, no, Barbara, we're not doing that. Time is infinite. The day of the month does not matter.
It truly doesn't, because when you release that, and I'm actually going to be coming out with another program talking about this soon, so I'm excited. But like time and money are really interrelated, right? And time is where, okay, so if you think about having $100,000 just in general, right? Like there's not necessarily like a tightness around it, but when you go $100,000 in a year, or $100,000 in 6 months, or $100,000 in 30 days, and it's like, right? It's like people start to tighten up when they bring time in, right? Because time is the time is limitation, right? Because it's like scarcity, it's shortage. It means like if I don't get it within this period, there's only a certain amount of time to receive it. And so then what do we do when we're working on time? We go, like, what's today? It's the 19th, so it's the 20th for you, right? It's March 19th, and there's this many days left, and my goal was this, and if I were to be on track, if I knew I was going to hit it, that would mean that by this date I would have had to have made that much, and I haven't, so that means it's not working, or it means I only have this many days left to make it. Tight, right? But if we just don't do that, like, if we just look at like, okay, what do I want, period, right? And don't bring time into the perspective, then it's like, what happens is we feel the fresh energy of desire, like the clean energy of desire, instead of like, well, this within that period of time, right? It's like, that's not clean energy. That's not like pure desire energy, which is where manifestation occurs.
Yeah.
Just be like, you think about it like this, like time is a very, like I always say, time is a very fluid thing that's barely even real, right? It's something humans invented to, you know, create alignment, right? And to be like, we'll both align at this space in time on this day at this time so that we're both there at the same time, right? It's something humans created as a measurement system, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And so time is a measurement system that's barely even real, but it's like, if you think about time like this, where it's like, all you ever have is now, right? So it's like, you can think about the past and you can speculate about the future, but it's like, when tomorrow comes, it'll be now. When next month comes, it'll be now. It'll be now. It'll be now. It'll be now. So all you can ever do is just be in alignment with what you want now, right? And when you do, it comes as fast as it comes. It's not about time or it taking time. It's about timing. It's not about it taking a certain amount of time in order to become an energetic match. It's just, are you a match now or not? And then it comes as fast as it's aligned. You know what I'm saying? And so when you release that and lean back into timing instead of time, you lean into alignment over time. It's not about how much time it takes. It's just, are you being a match or not? Right. And, you know, I remember when I worked through this with myself, it was like, it was always just a continual gentle invitation where I would notice my mind wandering. Like, what day of the month is it? Where am I? How far into the quarter am I? How far into the year am I? Right. And my mind would project all these things like, I should be here, or, you know, I want this by this time. And I was like, interesting, right? How the mind just likes to run away with time, even though all we have is now, right? And I was like, what am I seeking by moving in time? You know, greater abundance, greater feelings of safety, greater feelings of security. And I was like, interesting, right? Because it's like all of those things are actually available now, right? Like, is anybody shutting off your power right now? No. You know what I mean? Like, are bills paid so far? Yep. Even if they're due tomorrow or due in a week from now, you don't have the money for it. Are they technically fine right now? Yes. Right. And it's like that alignment that creates timelessness, right? Because it's like the universe doesn't operate on time, it operates on alignment. And when we just have alignment now, we get it fast. Does that make sense? Because we're no longer bringing time in as a limitation. So we experience time differently, right? We experience time as like, you know, when I had my first $50,000 a month, and this is what I'm going to teach about in the program, but just little taste tidbits for you guys. But it's like, when I had my first $50,000 a month, I remember when I was making like $10,000 a month, I would look at, it would be like the third week of the month, and I'd be like, oh, I'm at like $7,000 or whatever. And I'd be like, okay, I don't really feel like I have a lot of time. And so I could make 3,000 more is kind of how it felt. Right.
Yeah. That's what I do.
Right. But it's like, when I had my first $50,000 a month, because resistance slows down how we experience time. Right. If you're in a hurry and you're like, shit, like, you're like, time's going so fast, you're hitting every red light. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, absence of resistance means time slows down and opens up, and we operate at hyperspeed, right? And I'm so excited to talk about this. But, you know, like, I remember when I had my first $50,000 a month in business, it was like the most I'd ever made in a month before that was like 27, 29, something like that. And it was like, I doubled it from 1 month to the next. And it wasn't because I worked harder or did more. It was because, and like, I really felt the sensations in my body. I remember opening my calendar and being like, oh, I've made $40,000 so far this month. And I looked at my calendar and I was like, there's a week left in the month. And I remember feeling a different feeling. And what I felt was how I used to feel about a week or how I used to feel about 3 weeks in a month, I felt about a week, right? And to kind of conceptualize this, like when $20 was a rare amount of money in my experience, $20 felt like a lot, right? But then when hundreds of dollars, $20 didn't feel like as much. $100 felt like how $20 used to feel. And then $1,000 felt like how 100 used to feel. And then 5,000 felt like how 1,000 used to feel. Then 10,000, you know what I'm saying? Because it's just expanding your capacity to hold more within a shorter period of time, which happens when you remove time, your bandwidth automatically expands and you experience time differently, and you can hold more money within a shorter period of time. So it's just like continually releasing time itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. The whole time stuff is like, yeah, something that I'm like wrapping my head around, definitely. Like I literally have the Becoming Supernatural book next to me because I was reading the time section last night, and then my brain's like, you know, those like, I love how Elise said that mathematical meme, because I was like, that's been in my head ever since, like that one where they're like the mathematical equation on the top of their head, and I feel like when I'm reading the time chapter, I'm just like, my brain's like, okay, we're gonna get this, like I get parts of it, but I think like it's just more for me when I'm like reading stuff, I want to like form a new perception in my brain, and then I'm trying to like really get it to sink in, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's starting to like, I'm starting to get it. And then like during like a meditation and stuff like that, I'm like, I feel like I just feel like I'm getting there. Like I'm getting there. So therefore, like I feel good. It's like that usual feeling I get when, yeah, the feelings that I've received when like I'm getting closer and closer to something, because it's like, oh, I'm already experiencing the feeling without needing the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, because like when you release like time from the equation, it's like, you know, time exists because space exists, or time exists because space exists, right? And so when people operate like, in order to get what I want, I have to move from where I'm at now into what I want next, right? I have to get from here to there, right? Which means you have to move through space, which takes time, and that's why time exists. But when it stops being about what can I get to, and therefore how much time will it take me, and therefore how much work will it require of me, right? And it stops being about that, and it starts becoming about, am I a match or not? Then it's like we're no longer operating on time, and so our spaciousness and like our field automatically expands, and we have the ability to hold space for more money, right? Because money is a tool, right? It's here to support us. When we feel supported in the now, we hold space. We open up our space for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's definitely that I have to, like you were describing before, that it's like the $20 and what it meant, and then what I'm making certain numbers mean, which I feel like I worked on that. I get that now, and I'm like, okay, so I've been doing that, and then yeah, that feels really good. Like it's more that there's underlying, what I'm aware of when I am like practicing awareness and going, well, what's this little like subtle feeling? Because I'll feel these subtle feelings pop up sometimes of like that old pattern of like, oh, I feel like I'm a bad person for receiving that much money in a month kind of thing. It's like that. And then I'm like I work through that. That's more what happens. And then I'm like, well, Barbara, I tell you what process I said to myself yesterday. I was like, well, Barbara, you're a business owner now. Like you're like, if you don't get paid this much, like at least as a minimum, like forgetting about even the bigger number, I'm like, if you don't get paid this much as minimum, like I'm not actually then paying like then I'm having to pay my assistant off a credit card, and like that's not what you want. And it's like, you know, you're hiring an assistant, and you're like that's a good thing. Like she gets to use that money for her family and feed her family, and like, you know, like you're supporting all these different businesses with like all the like things that you have to pay for to have the business running. And then I start thinking about all these things. But yeah, I don't know if you have any other things to kind of help me with that pattern.
So everyone close your eyes with me for a second. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. If you're driving, pull over.
Close your eyes.
I don't know what everyone's doing. Everyone's screens are black. But anyways, now it's totally like
Bella's like licking my arm obsessively.
Yeah. Okay,
in bed.
Take some deep breaths. Some more. Listen to the wind chimes. There we go. Wind chimes in my background. Take some more deep breaths. I want you to see a dollar bill in front of you, just a $1 bill. What does this $1 bill represent? What does this $1 bill mean? How much work did you have to do in order to receive this $1 bill? Just this $1. Notice what you feel when you focus on this $1 being yours. Do you feel bad? Do you feel guilty? Or do you feel like it's not a big deal because it's just $1? Are you guys noticing what you're feeling? Do you feel bad? Do you feel guilty? Or do you feel like it's just $1? It's not a big deal, right?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So think about it like this. And visualization's over, by the way. You guys can open your eyes.
Okay.
Just to bring that awareness to you where it's like, okay, how do you feel about $1? Is $1 a big deal? More than likely, all of you, I can suspect, felt some kind of like, no, it's just $1. Like, did you feel like you work for $1, or could you just can find a $1 bill on the ground? And do you feel guilty in that? You're like, no, I could just easily, without working for, without efforting, just receive $1, right? You don't have to justify.
Yeah.
There's no guilt. There's no stories, right?
Yeah.
So
definitely.
now think about that being $5,000, $10,000, $100,000, right? And when you notice the difference between how $1 feels receiving $1 and $5,000, it's not that receiving $5,000 is harder, or that there's anything to feel bad about, or that you have to work harder for it per se. It's just that, what are the stories that come up when it's $1 versus $5,000, or versus $100, or $1,000, or $10,000, or $100,000, right? Notice the stories. Notice if you feel guilt. Notice if you feel like you have to justify it. Notice if you feel like it requires, like, how much work did you have to do for that amount of money? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not that there's
definitely that's the thing that comes in, like, it's that.
And
which
then,
I've worked on it.
And then think about it like this. $10,000 is just $1 multiplied times 10,000. Right? Do you feel how like that neutralizes it? How it's like, oh, it's just 10,000 these one little things, right?
Yeah.
When you know that you've easily.
I'm just like trying to carry it all, and I'm like, ooh. I'm just joking.
But it's like, it's already deposited in your bank account. It's fine. When you notice that there's truly not a difference, it's just simply the thing that keeps you from receiving $1 versus $10,000, for example, is not that it's harder. It's just like the simple awareness of like, what stories do you have around $10,000 versus $1, right? Because $10,000 is just $1 multiplied times 10,000, just 10,000 of those. And that amount of money all of us have more than, like, in our lifetime so far, have received way more than that, way more, right? And have spent way more than that, right?
Yeah.
Just a $1 bill multiplied times however many, right? And so
yeah.
it's not that it's harder to receive, it's just simply that there's a story, right? There's a narrative
Yeah.
that says when it gets to this much, that means what, right? And it doesn't mean anything. It's just a story.
Yeah, I can definitely see the trend that I've been practicing, like, for sure. So I get, I'm gonna be fine, and I'll, like, definitely just work on that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. No, I feel good.
Good.
Yeah, I feel good.
Good. Do you have anything
Yeah.
else?
No, like, I think everything else is just really just like, honestly, I'm very aware of the conditioned response, like, and then I just have to pay attention to when it happens, like I just did prior to the call. I was like, oh, I could just feel it in my body. And then I was like, when I'm in that level of awareness, that I'm in that place where it's like, okay, I'm good now.
Mm-hmm.
It's more when I'm in that place of like I've got like a dysfunctional pattern going on that causes me to actually switch off money altogether. And then I'm like, okay. So I like worked myself to this point, and now I'm like, oh, when I'm in this point, I'm good. You know what I'm saying?
And yeah, so like our default mode is to thrive, right? Just like with manifestation, I always think about it like this: is there is only the sun and distance from the sun, right? We have evidence of that. When it's dark in the sky, it's not because the sun has fallen out of the fucking cosmos or it shuts off, right? It just
Yeah.
our trajectory, where we're at in relationship to the sun, is far enough away that we perceive lack of sun, which we've labeled as darkness, right? And it's the same thing,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like the natural state is on, the natural state is receiving, the natural state is growing, the natural state is thriving. Like, look at nature, right? The plants that come back every year, the things that bloom and thrive, right?
Yeah.
No exceptions to that, right? We're not here for any other reason except for to reach our fullest potential, to be fully open, right?
Yeah.
Metaphorically, like a flower. And
For sure.
when the only way we as human beings have an amazing power available to us where we have free will, right? Where we have the ability to have thought, where we have the ability to assign meaning to things in life, right? That we have the ability to assign a narrative or to believe in stories, right? And these things factor how far away we are for how much distance or how much proximity we create in relationship to the truth, to the light, to the abundance, right? So it's not about a lot of people, how they operate around money is they feel as though they have to work really hard for it. And then when they're not working, when they're not feeling like they're pushing their edges, when they're not feeling like they're kicking their own ass and ending the day feeling exhausted, that they have no reason to justify earning, right? And so as a result, because they have this narrative that says I have to work hard for money, when they rest, they don't receive, they don't earn, right? Or when
Yeah.
they don't receive, they don't earn, they don't grow, right? But
Yeah.
the thing is, that's because they're operating from this false premise, because we have free will and we get to choose the narrative and the version of life we live based on the stories we tell and the things we believe. So we live in a law of attraction based universe. If we believe that the default setting is always off, and in order to turn it on, it requires effort and work, and then when we pause, we're not running to keep the light on. It's like a hamster wheel, like pedaling the bike or running on the hamster wheel in order to keep the lights off. The second you jump off the hamster wheel, the lights are off, right? But that's not the truth of the universe. That's duality, or that's a dissonance, right? Because the default setting, and look at the examples you have around you, because we're all made of stardust, we're all interrelated, it's all interrelated, we're all interrelated to all of it. If the sun's default setting was off and it had to take effort for it to be on, then it would maybe be different. It would maybe be a different story about how the world works, how receiving money works, but it's not. We have the biggest, most beautiful example in front of us, right? Gestures to the sunlight behind her.
Yeah.
Like, on. We didn't have to do anything for that. We didn't have to do anything for the flowers to bloom. We didn't have to, like, they just do it. They know how to thrive. It's their default setting. Humans are the same, right? We're not the exception to nature. We're not the exception to the universe. That the truth is our default setting is to thrive in every area.
Yeah, totally. No, that makes sense. Yeah, it was interesting, this guy, and like looking at normal people's perspectives of money, and I'm just like, oh, part of me is like, oh, like I don't want you to rub off on me with your money. Like your money perception. I was like, it's okay, I'm the dominant entity in this.
The light is on. You can either pull the curtains closed, but you can't stand around somebody. Like, light is the most potent, powerful force that exists, right? And there's no, because we can see that, because there's no such thing as off. There's just on or dissonance from it. There's just light or dissonance from it. So if anything, you're gonna rub off on him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, that's
like,
what I'm feeling into as well.
it's like with matches. If one's on, when other matches get in proximity to it, other matches light a fire too, right?
Yeah.
Energy and frequency works the same way. That which is,
yeah,
it says, one who's in the vortex is more powerful than millions who aren't, right? Because they yield that fire. That's
yeah, I totally. Yeah, he said a few things that were like also about me, because I have so much freedom, like I'm just really spoiled, and I was like, oh that brings up
I'm spoiled. I'm spoiled by God. I'm spoiled because I get to thrive, and we all get to thrive. We all get to be spoiled. We all get to live a really good life. I love being spoiled.
Yeah, I have to like reframe that, because I think that his perception of it is
Right.
very different. And then
feel bad for living a good life, as if you should feel bad for being free, as if you should feel bad for making money, as if you should feel bad, like your purpose work is so aligned that, you know, receiving money feels like an effortless extension of you being you, because it is, right? As if you should feel bad for honoring the natural state of the universe, right? Because, you know, it's like that whole thing, like I actually put a meme of this on Instagram today, where it's like we don't benefit others by suffering with them. We can hold space for them, we can love them, but it's like, you know, what Abraham Hicks says, which I absolutely agree with and adore and love, is like, by getting sick, you don't help others get well.
yeah
You can only be an example of wellness and call other people towards it.
yeah no, totally. That was really helpful. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Awesome. Okie. Veronica, how are you, love?
Hello, good. I'm gonna turn my video on.
Yay, a video.
I know. I last time I was like, I turned it on and then like no one else had theirs on, so I was like, I'm just gonna turn it off.
Never ever wants to do, but yeah, it'll flow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also have like a giant dry erase board. I'm like making all these notes. I feel like so excited. I'm like,
yeah.
So I have been sitting with like just really wanting to, like, so before I joined, I was kind of in this place of like, okay, like money and like you know, like just like this like hardness, and like I need to figure out like who I am as a therapist, and like so that I can make money, and then I have to like do all these things, and I have to, you know, just like this like really intense, you know, you have to work hard energy. And so now I feel like I've kind of like, God, like kind of moved some of that out a little bit. And I'm like really just desiring to be like at ease with my expression and at ease with like the clients who I'm calling in. And like I truly want to like really empower my clients and like find clients who feel like a really good fit for me. And so on the one hand, I'm like just feeling into that, but I get like a little stuck there. Like I get a little like, okay, well, who am I and who are my clients, and like what do I want to offer? Like I don't know, just being in that place.
Right. So clarity is an energy like money that compounds on top of itself, right? So when we notice we lack clarity, it's because there is clarity dropping in that we're not yet calibrated to the frequency of it, right? So, there's a couple ways to go about this, but truly it's just deciding that like when you have a question, the way the universe works is there's an equal and opposite energy for everything, right? That's where duality exists. Or, that's why when you bounce a ball off the wall, it bounces back. There's a force that moves it back, right? So in the universe, the way energy works, because everything we do creates an energetic force or ripple into the universe. Every thought we think, everything we feel, and it sends out that ripple, and then we get the feedback, right? Which creates experiences, that whatever, responses, feelings, etc. So with clarity, you got to think about it like this, or desiring clarity. I have a question, energy's moving out, right? But if we stay in the energy of question, we're out, question, and then we're not able to receive it back because our input output is the same thing, right? So if you're speaking, this is a shitty analogy, but bear with me.
Cool. But
if you're speaking, it's a lot harder to eat. It's a lot harder to take in, right? Or if you're exhaling, you can't inhale at the same time. There we go. That makes sense. You can't do both simultaneously. So you have to decide, are you exhaling or inhaling, right? So when the exhale goes out, when the question is released out into the universe, you have to receive it back, right? The equal and opposite energy. So with clarity, it's simply deciding. So I'm aware that there's something I desire to know. There's a clarity I desire to feel. There is an answer I desire to receive to this question. So now that I've asked it, it's my job to decide that it is done. It is my job to decide that the clarity, the answer, the response is already on its way to me. And it's just my job to be an open receiver to it, right? Mm-hmm. So you start leaning from question frequency to answer frequency, to exhaling to inhaling to receive, right? So to me, that's, let's reach for what is there. And what I know for sure is this. Do you see how I just said that with such certainty? What I know for sure is this. And then my brain goes, what for sure, right? What I do know for sure on the subject of clients is how I want to feel. I want to feel like this in this exchange. I want them to feel like this in this exchange. I want them to feel empowered, inspired, uplifted. I want them to feel excited. I want to feel excited. I want it to be a mutually beneficial exchange. I want to feel excited on purpose. I want to feel like I'm looking forward to our calls every week. I want to feel like they add joy and purpose to my life. Like clarity. And then it's just basking in what you have received so far, right? And then what does that lead to? More clarity, details. Ooh, this is who I am. This is my ideal client, or this is what they appear to be like, right? Or that will just simply lead to the direct receiving of what you want every time.
Yeah, I'm just like feeling into all that.
How do I, part of me is resisting trusting it a little bit. Does it really get to be that easy? Is that what you're feeling?
It's like, I understand the concept, but my body isn't like, my body is like, okay, like, what does that like, I've heard you say that, and so it's like, I know that, but I'm like, how can I like feel that? Like,
right.
Yeah.
So feeling in the body. Okay. So understanding in the mind versus feeling in the body is the difference between experience, right? So with this idea or intention in mind, that all I have to do is simply get available to receive, right? How can I conceptualize that experience in things I've already lived, right? So can I think of any moments in time where I desired clarity, I decided it would be done, I released it, and then received it later that day? Or if you can't think of anything like that, let's go more general with it. Like, have there ever been any times where I desired clarity on my body, on how I was feeling, and I wasn't sure, and I received that clarity? Have you ever experienced anything where there was a gap between desire to know and knowing, and then I moved into knowing? Have you ever had an experience like that before in your life? Yes. right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I feel that based on experience, I conceptualize it, right? If I move it from it stays in my mind, but it also is received by my body because I can draw upon experiences that my body has lived, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if it's been like that in the past, is it logical to expect that I can feel this and expect it moving into the quote unquote future? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And what I notice as I feel that,
I see like it, like I feel it like spinning and you going to drop in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm like, okay, yeah. Cause like, as you say that, I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Like from a certain perspective, I like know that I'm like a really good manifester. Like I know it's like, there's certain ways that I like don't doubt it at all. Um,
So there's where your solidity is. There's where your solid ground is. And so build your house on brick on the ground, on the most solid force there is, instead of building it on sand that's shaky and wobbly.
Right. And this is right. Yeah. This is where I notice that I hesitate is when there's like a feeling of like lack of permission, because like on the one hand, I believe that I have like full permission to just like evolve at whatever pace that I want, and I've worked for people and been like just in relationship with people who are so like they find a certain flow and they just like fucking go for it, which is like amazing, but it's not always like really integrated, and then it can leave like the people like a big wake in their path of kind of like harm. So um it's like I feel like overly sensitive to that, I think. Like well, I'll let you jump in.
Overly sensitive to moving towards something because you feel that others can be impacted negatively by it, and so therefore you desire permission from them to move forward.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm like checking in, like my network for support is like maybe out of hands. Like you know what I mean? Like I think it's amazing to have support, and I think relationship is amazing, and like I find myself checking in with others like probably too often.
At the detriment of your expression and forward movement. So let's look at it like this. So never ever will I tell anyone, nor do I feel this way either, to stop caring about the impact or effect we have on other people, because I believe it's a beautiful thing to care. But I don't feel it's all about alignment, right? Where it's not about like acting in permission of other people, but it's all about acting in from the feeling and permission of the well-being for everyone, right? And when we can connect to that beyond the individual human who's standing across from us or sitting across the table from us or whatever, and we can tune into the ultimate source of well-being, it no longer becomes about how can my actions or lack thereof have a negative impact on people around me. And it starts being about like the trust in the ultimate well-being, right? The source, God, the universe, right? Which is goodness, which is love, which is everything's always working out for everybody, which is infinitely supported. God, if God can support any person on this planet more than any human can, right? Because God is infinite, God is all-knowing, God is powerful, God is infinite resources, God is infinite love, God is infinite, like bird's eye view, like lining things up that you're not even aware of in the background, right? Like that kind of support is massively of service for people to have access to. And what I believe is that if I'm being guided and led, I'm being guided and led from God. And God has a bird's eye view on my life. God knows how my actions, how my clarity, how my voice will have a ripple effect on others around me. And although initially their ego or human mind may express discomfort or express not being okay with it or feeling hurt or harmed by it, I know ultimately, zoomed out from the perspective of God, that's of service, because I can't know how that will lead to the next thing or that will lead to the next thing. It's all creating and butterfly affecting everyone's good and well-being and their and their love and their well-being and their thriving, right? And as you know, because we all know this, we've all had experiences where something uncomfortable for us yielded us exponential personal growth in some way, shape, or form, right? And that, if we wouldn't have had that, we wouldn't have had the opportunity for growth and therefore the opportunity to thrive even more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we can act from the trust of the ultimate well-being of God, that we're being guided and led by that force, everything that we do can only help. Everything that we do can only help, right? And when we trust that, we feel safe in our expression. We feel safe in our movement. We trust our decisions. We're willing to follow through, right? And we move towards it long enough that we start to see the results of that well-being. We start to see in hindsight how this led to this, led to that, led to this. Oh my God, if that one thing didn't happen, this whole other effect that happened after would not have happened.
Right.
Occurred to get me to exactly where I'm at right now, thriving even more than I was then. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's like this balance of, I feel like it's probably easier to do this in the coaching industry. Like you can just be like, you're not ready. Like you're kind of stuck in your old stories. Like you're just kind of like, you're not really willing to like move out of it. And so it's like that's one perspective that I am like, I'm just like, sometimes like, all right,
So are you about to ask, but in therapy, it's different. You have to kind of like hold space for people or.
Well, the people who tend to show up to therapy tend to be, I think, unaware of those possibilities. Like,
So then it seems really logical that because they're unaware of these possibilities that I embody and desire to grow within by receiving coaching in the coaching industry, right? It would make logical sense to my mind and to my brain that because they're not playing up in the coaching field, as far as I know, to the extent that I am, that I would have to meet them with a different perspective. I would have to meet them with a different energy. I would have to tolerate something more or less. It doesn't necessarily feel aligned with my highest values or highest service, right? Because they're a different here. We're in a different industry. It's a different game, essentially, right? Is that how it feels? So,
I mean, not exactly. It feels, well, I want to hear what you're going to say. Go ahead.
perfect. So, for me, it's like when we can just, let's compare it to dating, right? So let's pretend like I'm dating and I live in a town that's full of all the kind of men that I don't want to be with, right? They don't look how I want them to look. They don't have the belief systems I desire to connect with in my long-term partner, whatever. And they don't take care of themselves to the degree that I desire in my long-term partner. It just doesn't feel aligned, right? So I can make that mean that I must be happy with someone like this, or I can move to where I believe that these men are existing in the world and living, right? Or I can simply lean back into the truth of energy, right? I can choose to believe in what I want independent of my circumstances. I can choose to believe in what I want independent of who's around me. I can choose to believe in what I want independent of the clients I've had, independent of the men I've dated in the past, independent of the men I see every day. I can choose to continue to believe in what I want and just simply be an energetic match. And from there, I can trust that whoever I met with on my path of embodying that and knowing that that's available to me regardless, I can continue to know, trust, and believe that those who meet me when I'm believing that are ready for me. Or I can choose to show up knowing that it's all working out, that the perfect people are coming onto my path who are ready, who are available. And I can just trust that whenever I'm in my heart and whenever I view them through the lens of self-empowerment that I view myself through, when I can bring that gaze upon them from my heart, from love, from service, I can just trust what my heart feels in that moment and trust that long-term they will benefit. I can trust that they'll benefit exactly when they need to. I can trust that they'll hear exactly what they need to. I can trust that they'll receive, as me being a conduit, exactly what they need in this moment to get what they want. Because meeting people you know, and especially in therapy, I would imagine is like we meet people in a spectrum, right? Where some people are deeper in trauma, for example, like physical and emotional trauma, right? We're gonna have people who are just like wanting that support of like processing out loud with someone every week, right? And it's not that any of them are better or worse or right or wrong. It's just that people are where they are, right? And in therapy, I think there's a perspective of meeting people where they're at, which I don't think is bad or wrong. Like in coaching, I do the same thing with my clients, but it's like it's about meeting them where they are, but still staying here energetically, right?
Right. Yeah.
And when I have, you know, which is like personal power, emotional intelligence, self-awareness, right? And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? And it's a process that simply, if you desire it, you can be aware of things that throw you off of that or whatever. And you can just not beat yourself up for it and just move back there and move back there and move back there. And then eventually you're just more solid, more solid, more solid. And then you start calling in people who are in closer proximity to your energy and to your frequency, right? Who are constantly like, no matter where they're at, there's like there's not this feeling of like judgment per se of like where you're at is a lower frequency, or you're not as ready, or you're not in the space to hear this, right? It's just simply viewing people through the lens that we, you know, the self-empowerment lens, the love lens, the God lens, right? And following our guidance system from there and just trusting it and trusting us to rendezvous with the people who are what we want, where, you know, because I believe that relationships, like whether romantic friendships or, you know, business relationships, client and coach relationships, like it gets to be mutually beneficial on both ends. It's not just like, oh, you paid me, now I have to like drop my energy or whatever, or suffer in some way, shape or form, or take on your shit and worry about you and have panic attacks because of something you know, like if someone came at me with like their money story and they're like, oh my God, like, and I was like, oh my God, you are suffering. What do we do? So I just give him money? I don't know, the disempowerment, right? Or it's like, I can just be like, yeah, I witnessed you in this, I see you in this, and still hold the steady frequency of what I know and believe about money and what I believe about God, and trusting them and trusting their timing and trusting the whole being that's available to them, right? And then from there, they'll move towards, I mean, they're always moving towards light, right? They're always moving towards, because there's no other thing. Like the light is like a magnet. The light, the truth, the abundance, the thriving is like a magnet in every person. And if you imagine God or well-being as the sun, we're all pulled towards it, right? But it's like sometimes we have to be pulled towards it and run into a wall to see the wall that we've built in the way. And it's not a bad thing. And sometimes that means we change paths, we navigate things differently, but it's never bad or wrong. We're always moving in the right direction. If we can trust that, when people come into our presence, they're in more direct relationship to the light and to the well-being and to thriving and healing and loving and happy.
Yeah, that feels so clear and feels so good to hear, because like the picture I get was like, no wonder it's so hard for me to like hold space, because I'm trying to operate like outside of myself. Like I'm trying to like be like, and like my clients are like all over the place, and so I feel like I see like one person and then another person and another person, and they're like all these different places, so I'm just like I'm orienting myself differently rather than like keeping myself at the same kind of place. And I'm curious how you keep because it feels like a nervous system thing, like even just like as our bodies communicate, like I'll notice like my body going to the physical posture of like whatever my client is, if I'm not like very, very present in my body. And sometimes it can be so activating that I get like kind of sucked in, like even if you know what I mean? So it's like building this like strength in my own nervous system so I can keep my energy here. And I know you said like you go down, sometimes you just go back up.
Right. You know, it's that continual, like for me, you know, I remember when I first started taking on clients, I was like, bam, 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 bam. And I was like, oh, I just have this energy. And like, of course people want to hire me. Of course people want to be around me. But then every once in a while I would be in the presence of someone, like, you know, on the phone or whatever. And I would notice that they would be in such panic around something or such heaviness around something that I would go down with them. And then I would start to feel like, why am I feeling so anxious right now? Like I'm like, you're worried about money. They feel like this. And I'm like, and I'm believing them.
Right. Yeah. You're like, fuck. Yeah.
And I would be like, okay, get back into the vibes, you know? And I was like, what I noticed for myself is like, I'm able to come back when I'm not judging myself for going there. And, you know, like for me, it was like, okay, Genevieve, well-being is the truth. And I would just kind of like say it to myself, like, well-being is the truth. Thriving is the truth. Living a good life is the truth. And like, I don't have to like, cause the way I see it is like freaking out with them was me judging them in a way where like, oh my God, you are fucked. You're right. Or maybe,
Right. That's so true. Yeah. I'm writing it down.
I don't know. What, maybe we should bring in another coach in here. I don't know. This seems intense.
You're fucked.
You are fucked. You just told me a very convincing story, right? But it's
right,
like,
yeah.
it's like, you know, no, you know what I mean? Like, who am I to judge them and say that's their truth? Who am I to judge them and say that there's, you know, they're not going to be able to pay their bills next month, that they aren't going to be able to continue to move forward, whatever. Like, that's me assigning judgment meaning, and not like judgment like you shameful little judgy bitch, right? But like judgment like meaning, assigning meaning instead of just being and hearing and listening and holding space, you know? And it's like, it wasn't a perfect process for me, but it's like, it's something that I had to develop over time, where it's like, I got to, the more solid I was within myself, right? The more I could maintain that around others. Right. So I made a practice of self-awareness, whether I was on the phone with a client or not. Right. And so then I could move into the experience of being connected to a client, and I'd be like, oh, I feel a little wobbled. And I'd come back like thriving's the truth. And I'd be like, steady again. Right? Continual calibration. And it's like, don't feel bad, or don't make yourself bad or wrong or like not good enough or whatever if you like fall into it. Cause like I said, I used to, I haven't in a really long time, but you know, it was something that was challenging for me at one point, but there is the other side to this. There is a way to feel steady, and that's in navigating the phases and periods and moments where you notice unsteadiness.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I think what I feel like I want to be like gentle about is acknowledging that my experience is my experience, and it can be so easy for me to be like, these are my vibes, this is what's up, like, you know, like this is when it's like, yeah, that was the path that I took and that is my truth. And like, how can I make that like applicable to like someone else's, you know what I mean? And so, because I have found myself too where I can be kind of just like, don't bring me down, like, you know?
You're right. That's a guarded energy. And to me, that makes, like, if it's between like, okay, if I'm a lifeguard, right? And I don't have my floaties on, or I don't have my little lifeguard like floaty thing, and I go out and try and save someone who's drowning, and I do it without that, they're going to pull me under. And I'm like, ah, and if it's between me or them, survival instincts, get the fuck off me. I need to breathe, right? And like, you know, metaphorically speaking, right? But it's like, if I have my little floaty thing, I can go out and I can help them, and we can both float.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't have this thing, and I go out and try and help them, and they're gonna pull me under, and I'm gonna be like,
what does the floaty represent?
Like, so I wouldn't always look too deep into my analogies, but but it's just like the saying where it's like, if it's this feeling in your nervous system where it's like, okay, my vibes like represent like how my well-being, how I feel represents my well-being, right? And if me being in the presence of you lowers that, I'm no longer gonna feel available to be in the presence of you or people like you, or I'll start telling you stories and these narratives that clients are drain on my energy, or I only attract bad clients, or there's something wrong with me that like I can't attract the right clients, or blah, 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 blah. And then these are just shields, energetic shields, right? It's like, or we could just dismantle these shields and look at the truth, which is like, I am connected to the infinite source, right? The thing that never runs out. The thing that is infinitely supported, the bottomless well, right? That has infinite water, right? And so me being the infinite source of stability, love, light, well-being, in the presence of others, nobody can take that away from me, because it's not about someone taking it and me running out. It's about, am I plugged in or not, right? So it stops, then it makes you realize like, oh wait, it actually has nothing to do with them. It actually has to do with me unplugging, right? Source of electricity that flows through my house. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
When you can look at it like that, it's like, ooh, I just unplugged, and don't make it have anything to do with them, right? Because it doesn't. And you could just be like, when I've unplugged, I notice when I stand in the presence of you, I feel tired or I feel resentful, but it's actually me unplugging. You're not unplugging my plug. I'm doing that. Make sense?
That's really useful. Yeah.
Perfect. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Let's see. Just gonna check on the time as well. Awesome. Stephanie.
And hold up, how do I do my thing?
Oh, your video? I can, never mind, I can't. That would be weird.
Hold on.
Video.
Allow Zoom access. All right, hold up. Let me do my
I was like,
thing.
I think I can do it. If I can unmute you, I should be able to turn on your camera. And then I was like, that would actually be really invasive if they gave me that option.
I think it's on the bottom left. I think you can do it. Like, does it not say start video on your bottom left?
Yeah, no, on mine it's telling me I got to do it in my settings. So I'm going over there right now to allow it. Hold up.
No worries. Well, while you do that, I'm going to pop in with Elise. Oh, wait, unless you just
All
got.
right.
Oh,
Is it good now?
yay!
Yay! Okay, so this is where I'm at. So what I've been working through is I get into this place of like where I'm like totally cool, like not I guess worried is the word that I want to use, meaning like I'm not worried about this launch, and I'm not seeing the results the way that I want to, right? But then I kind of get like apathetic, where I'm kind of like I don't care, and then I'm like, but that's not how I want to feel. Like I want to feel like joyful, and I want to feel like the desire. So I've been playing with that and feeling into the desire and just allowing the desire to build, but then I still feel myself sometimes just get like apathetic, like where I just like, well, if I don't care about it, then I won't go into like freak out panic mode.
Self-protection. It's the feeling of protecting yourself from feeling potential pain, right? It's your brain being a survival mechanism. Just like if the stove's hot and you know it is, your instinctual reaction is don't fucking touch it, that'll hurt, right? And the brain operates very similarly around emotional pain and discomfort, right? And this feeling that we can fail is a big ass blow to our egos, right? It's this feeling we can do something wrong, and if we really, really tried and then it didn't work, what the fuck would that mean about us? Then there would be no way, like how it translates to the brain, that would mean that I just don't get to have it for some reason. There's just something inherently wrong with me, right? But it's like what actually happens is like when you don't try, when you don't fully go for it, you're not able to learn, right? Because we can look at, when you try during a launch and when you go for it and you allow yourself to go for it because you're like, what's the worst that can happen? What, it doesn't go the way I planned, and then I just keep moving and I learn from it, and then I have a better one next time, and a better one and a better one and a better one, and then I'm slaying it and killing it. Doesn't sound so bad to me, right? But it's like if we don't try, we don't go for it, we have no data to learn from, right? Then if it doesn't work after we tried, there's always a solution, because everything always has a solution. We look at what worked, what didn't work, what can we do differently, and then we apply it, right? But if we don't allow ourselves to try, and feeling apathism, just kidding, just making up words up. But when we feel apathetic, that's the emotional like guard coming up of like, ooh, I remember, okay, when I had my first $50,000 launch in my business, I felt this come up, and I was like, this is something that comes up so often for so many entrepreneurs and just people in all things, but especially launches. It's such a beautiful thing to create awareness around. Is I remember like day one of my launch, I had no signups, none, right? And me going, having a $50,000 launch, day one, no signups. Ooh, that's not going to work. I could have shut down, right? I could have been like, we'll just half-ass it here going forward because it's already not going to happen. I'm already protecting myself from feeling failure, right? And what I did instead was like, no, like, no, like this is working. One day does not mean shit. If I get no signups the first week, I still get to decide that it's going to work. Right. And so I did that. And then day 2 had maybe 1 or 2 signups. And I was like, well, that wasn't the momentum I was expecting. And I had it come up again. And I was like, well, I can make this mean that it's not working, or I can decide again that it is, and then it will. Right. Day 3, 5 signups. Wow, that's more like it. Right. Day 4, 1 or 2 signups. Oh, it's not working again. Right. And I was like, I can make this mean it's not working. I can protect myself. I can shut off. I can get apathetic, or I can turn it back on, decide that it's working, decide to continue to know that, turn it back on. The next day, 1 sign up. I can turn it back on. I can decide it's working. I can do it again. Right. The next day, 3 signups. Right. It was just like doing that and doing that. And I held that energy. And I held it and I held it and I held it till the very end. I stayed up until 11:59, well, midnight, right? And of the last day of my launch, and I kept switching out of it and kept switching out of it and kept switching out of it. And every time I switched out of it, I got energy. I was inspired. I wanted to show up. I wanted to sell. I had shit to say. I was live streaming because I felt like I was giving, people a cure for cancer. I was like, of course I want to tell people about this. Of course I do, right? But if I would have shut down, if I would have gotten apathetic, that wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have happened. And I watched as, looked at my phone. I remember this. 11:59 p.m. the day the launch closes. So-and-so signed up for your course. And I was like, another one at 11:59. If that ain't some shit, if that isn't symbolic, holding on until through the finish line, right? I dated this guy briefly who was like a runner. And, he was teaching me a lot when I would go running with him about the psychology of my mind in relationship to my body. And he was like, your mind will stop long before your body ever does. Your body actually can do a lot more. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm tired. Right. We would go for runs together and like, let's go for it. And let's wait until we hit that tree, then we'll stop. And I was like, okay. So I was running, picked up my speed, right? And then I noticed when I was about 5 feet away from the tree, my legs started to slow down before I even got to the tree. And I was like, why? Because I want to be stopped by the tree. Like, I want to be like completely no longer moving by the time I get to the tree. Isn't that fascinating? That my body would slow down before I even got there. Right. And so he would do this thing where he's like, let's run to that tree and then we'll stop, or then we'll slow down or whatever. And so when we got like 5 or 10 feet away from the tree, he'd be like, actually that tree that's a little further, actually that tree that's a little further, actually that tree that's a little further. And I was like, wow, I've never run this long, this far. I didn't know I could do it. It was on my mind. Right. And it's the same thing here. And in running, like what people will do, like, more, I guess, polished runners, like mentally polished, I would say, and physically, they run through the finish line. Right? They don't stop 5 or 10 minutes or 5 or 10 feet before the tree. They keep running well past the tree and then they stop. Right? So it's like the same agility in your mindset where it's like,
oh, you're about to make me cry right now. I'm getting so emotional about that.
oh.
Okay. I got it. And so, all right, so that like totally nailed it for me. And then so here's like where I kind of like go in between 2 spectrums where I go into like exactly what you nailed, right? And then, or because I really know how to push, like, and I don't want to push, right? Like that's the whole opposite of where then so it's like this fine line that I feel that I am wanting to, I don't know if I want to, feel, but it feels like I'm on this fine line where it's like, all right, you want to totally fucking 110% commit to this. And you're like outgoing the goal or whatever, like full on committed, but without like that pushing, you know what I mean? That is draining you.
Yeah. So to me, that's pushing with resistance, right? That's like running through the finish line while there's someone standing in front of you pushing you back and you're like, no. It's like, or you could just like push the motherfucker out of the way and then run and your body will just do it, right? So it's like, it burns you out. I think you already know what I mean, but I'll just kind of like sum it up to this. Like it burns you out when there's something pushing against you, right? Where it's like, so it's not about showing up and doing it anyways from an energy of this isn't going to work, right? Because pushing through an apathetic feeling of like, it's not going to work. I don't want to be disappointed, protecting myself emotionally, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to make myself show up anyways. That will burn you out, right? But going, no, it's working. And hallelujah, I'm so excited to sell this, right? And showing up, that gives you energy. You know what I'm saying? And it's like your nervous system and your body will calibrate to a higher frequency where it's like that becomes the normal, that becomes the minimum. And you honestly can do a lot more in life and business. You can show up a lot more and your bandwidth is higher. Does that make sense? So it's just like, it's not about pushing anyways. It's about looking at the resistance and deciding, like, it's looking at like where you've decided or where you've assigned meaning. Also in that launch, I remembered there was a day where it was like, I think it was the day with the most signups. And it was like, by the time it was like 3 p.m., I had maybe 2 signups. And I was like, it would be really cool to have like 7 signups or something like that or more. And, you know, towards the end of the evening, it was like, I had two. And any other day I would have been like, woo, I got 2 in a day, right? Any other time. But it was like, I noticed that when I had 2 signups and it was like they were an hour apart or something, it was like someone signed up at 12 and someone signed up at 1. And I remember it was like 2:30 and I was like, well, if there was going to be more signups today, they would have signed up at 2, not 2:30 or later. Like, what the fuck? So I was making it mean it wasn't working because someone didn't sign up in the last hour. Does that make any fucking sense? And I was like, just because someone hasn't signed up in the last hour, just because people or the people who are coming into the space aren't signing up every single second of every single moment of every single day of this launch does not mean it's not working. Right? And then it was like, it's working. It's working. And I was like, ooh. And then from there, I either like, you know, I remember I showed up a lot during that launch, but I was live streaming because I was like, oh my gosh, I have something to say. Let's go live real quick. Or I was like writing content. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just pouring out of me. Or if I didn't feel like that, I stayed in the energy of it's working. And then I fucking sat on the couch or I, you know, went for a walk or did whatever the fuck I did in those days. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, it was not pushing. It was not pushing. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I think that's it. I feel like that's my big thing right now, you know, like, yeah, I feel good. I feel complete. Say what?
Well, you got it. You're going to nail it. It's just going to get better and better and better.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Elise, I'm coming for you. Elise,
Cool.
how are
Good
you?
morning. I'm fabulous and I'm so excited because I've had just the best client calls this week
Oh, yay.
and supported my clients lead themselves through everything. And now I'm like, I so am ready to be supported myself.
Yay.
So firstly, I would so like, I know this stuff, but I would love you to reinforce it for me. Given everything that's going on in the world, I'm really like having to double down on my belief that like, despite what like everyone's saying about like economy and this and that like when I vibrate abundance, it creates and equals abundance, and that like the default mood is to thrive. So like the miracles don't stop just because like this is going on. So like yeah, I just am trying to really maintain that belief that like abundance equals abundance, alignment equals miracles, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so there are people who under all economic, political, spiritual, physical, and mental circumstances thrive, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are some people whose bodies thrive under all conditions and circumstances and all environments. There are some people who thrive, their relationship always comes out on top regardless of anything, right? There are people who, no matter what's going on in the economy, no matter what's going on, like, you know, my partner's brother is like a financial advisor, and you know, he deals with people who are making like, if you don't have at least $10 million to give him, he's not taking your phone call. You know what I mean? Like, it's like high multimillionaires, billionaires, multi-billionaires, right? People's money that he's managing. And, you know, it's interesting, like, because he's like investing their money, he's putting their money in stocks, and it's interesting to see and hear about like where he's just rearranging things. Like, he's not going, oh, we're losing money, oh, like you're fucked or whatever. It's just, instead of our money here, we just move the money over here. We thrive under all conditions, right? So with this stuff that's going on, the way I see it and the way I feel about it is, I truly deeply believe there's always a solution available to any problem, right? There's always forward movement, right? There's always the other side of this, that, right? And I also truly believe that every single thing is always working out for me. And I believe that for every single person on this planet. I believe that the trajectory of well-being is the strongest thing that exists in the world. And if the coronavirus needs to like go batshit bananas for a minute, and like that just has to and does correlate with well-being, right? Sometimes we have to, what I was saying with Veronica, I believe earlier on the call, where it's like, sometimes we have to run into a wall, so to speak, to rise, right? And from there, that leads to something else, where we thrive more than we ever thought possible, right? All because it happened, right? You've seen people like break up with the love of their life, and then, you know, get really depressed, and then find God, and then they're like, right? You know, it's like, well-being is a trajectory period, right? And I also believe that now is the time where leaders are emerging. I believe there are two spectrums of people right now. There are people who are panicking. There are people who are freaking out. You know, let's talk about money. Like, there are people who are hoarding money. There are people who are not spending. There are people who are worried about it. And then there are people like me who are still investing, who are still making money, who are, you know, like, you looking at this as a good thing and an opportunity to rise even more, right? This is a period of time where leadership occurs. This is a point in time where leaders emerge. This is a point in time where people step forward and go, this is what I think, you want to come with me? And people are like, fuck yeah, right? And, you know, if anything I've seen, you know, just by like kind of talking to you all, my experiences in business, my other clients, and like, you know, just people I know, like, people are still investing. People still want to grow. And if anything, this is an opportunity where everyone, for the most part in the world, is sitting at home right now. They're sitting at home going, what the fuck do I want to do with my life? They're sitting at home forced to look at, I want to change my body. I want to change my relationship to my body, right? They're sitting at home with their quarantine snacks being like, I feel uncomfortable. They're like, Barbara, right? They're being, I have purpose, and I want direction. I want to start a business. I want to learn this manifestation stuff, Elise, right? They're like, I want to be really brave, empowered. I want to be a fucking creatrix, badass Stephanie, right? You know, like, they're just like, they're waking up to who they are. So if anything, to me, people are spending more now than ever. You know, you gotta, like, think, like, you got to remember too that like a lot of the things that are happening right now, and like what people are saying is like, oh, like people are saving money, and like places are shutting down, and like even conversations I heard, like, you know, being out and about a few days ago in my town, you know, like, I don't know, oh, thank God we have money coming in from this other job. It's like, oh, my partner lost their job, and like blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I can look over there, right? I can even be aware of it. You know, when I'm in a solid energy, I'll look over there, send them love, send them all the vibes, and then I'll stay here. I'm going to stay here where thriving is the vibes, where growth is the vibes. And honestly, like, how I feel about all this, not to sound like dark or fucked up, but I'm like, this is such a beautiful time right now. Like, this is such a beautiful time for people to want, for people to grow, for people to wake the fuck up to who they are, to wake the fuck up to what they want. People are investing more now than ever, is what I truly feel. And we're a match to these people who are like, who are blossoming, who are blooming, who are growing, who are waking up, who are realizing what they want, who are desiring support. And those people are like, Knock, knock, knock. Hello. Will you work with me? Can I be your client? Da, 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 da. I want to start a business. I want to do this. Like, this is making me realize this. It's a really beautiful and powerful time. Those people are investing. These other people that are in the fear paradigm or whatever, like, they can be there. That's not bad or wrong. It's not bad or wrong to feel fear right now. Stephanie, I just see the hand clappy emoji. This is cool. You can do Zoom reactions. Slay. Anyways, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. And I feel like if anything during these times, it's like you can make even more money than ever, and not from a place of like capitalizing or taking advantage of a situation or marketing from fear. But it's like when I look at the universe, right? Where if there's this much dissonance from light, like let's say you turn your bedroom light on and you take a step back and a step back and a step back while continually looking at your bedroom, the further and further away from your bedroom you move, the dimmer the light appears to be. Not that it actually is, right? And so if you're that, it's like with this much darkness is this much light. With this much heaviness is this much lightness. With this much desire for more, there's this much on the other side of it, right? And this trajectory right now of like fear and panic and scarcity and whatever the fuck that people are feeling, and lack of health and lack of well-being and fear and not feeling stability and being like, what the fuck's going on in the world or whatever, holy fucking shit to what's on the other side of that. Like, I'm getting goosebumps. You know what I'm saying? And there are people who, more goosebumps, there are people who are like, I now more than ever, I'm determined to be one of those people who goes on the other side of it. When life punches you in the dick, so to speak, right? Like, there are people who are like, ugh. And, you know, we've all been those people. I've been that person. But there was a time where life, you know, punched me in my lady bits. Like, and I was like, let's go, life. I'm going to rise the fuck up. I'm going to be bigger than this. I'm going to be on the other side of this. This will make me thrive. This will be the beginning of my fucking story, right? And then I did. So imagine that on a collective level where people are waking the fuck up, and you can feel it. Like, when you're not in that fear, you can feel it, right? You can like lean it. You can feel it. You can feel the people being like sprouting. You can feel the people blooming. You can feel the people popping their heads up and being like, what else is possible, right? And like, in that energy, does it even make any fucking sense to not thrive right now? Hell no. You know what I'm saying?
That was fucking brilliant and beautiful. I love it. That was just like, you could like sell that speech. That was so good. And it's like 100%. See, this is why like-minded people are so important, because that's how I felt this like most of the time. And then I keep seeing lots of like, even my gorgeous entrepreneur friends send these emails that feel like they're treating everyone like a turkey, and it's like, here's all my courses for free, you know, you must be freaking out right now. And I'm like, no, I'm not freaking out right now. And I feel like, why, like, not judging that is like, I know they're trying to be compassionate and that is their way of like doing that, but you've helped me see that like I can trust my own inner guidance, which is like, I just want to keep talking about manifestation and the things I want to talk about, and like in rising up, like you said, like I'm in that rising up, leaning in vibe, if that makes sense.
Right. You know, and I don't think there's a right or wrong thing to do right now in terms of business, but I think it's like when you're this is like, okay, this is stirring people up in relationship to all that they want. It's a very, very good thing. It's a very, very powerful thing, right? But also everyone is where they are right now. And some people will feel the dissonance more than others because they're further away. That means it hurts them more, right? And
I love that.
they have to move into anger. Sometimes they have to move up into, you know, from powerlessness to anger to resentment to blame to whatever the fuck, right? But it's like, we're all at where we're at, but all that matters here is that we be who we are and we be where we're at, and we follow the pull in the trajectory of growth, the trajectory towards well-being, the trajectory towards more that we want, right? And when we show up and lead from that, if we're led to discount, if we're led to give something for free, beautiful, that's an alignment for us. If we're led to raise our prices, if we're led to keep things the same, beautiful. That's benefiting the people who are in our vibrational vicinity and even physical vicinity, right? So it's all that matters here is like, there is no right or wrong way. There's just your way right now what's aligned for you, and that will lead to all that you want. That will benefit you, that will benefit everyone will benefit.
Yeah, I love that. And like, yeah, I've got to work on my like I'm not like judging people for, and I know they're like following their guidance and being compassionate too. It's more that it has made me question my like lack of that guidance, and my guidance has been the opposite of like, I want to like, I feel very high vibe and aligned, and I don't want to talk about this all the love long day, if you know what I mean.
Elise isn't talking about it. Thank fucking God. Let's hang out with Elise. Right?
Yeah, that's how I feel when I see people like go on as like with their regular business. I'm like, oh, that feels so nice. It's so soothing.
Right. And other people might be like, why isn't Elise talking about it?
Yeah.
Oh, this person over here is talking about it. Cool. I'm gonna hang out with them for a minute. Right. But it's like, it all is good. Like, we're all getting what we need. We're all getting what we want. Just trust it.
I love that.
You know, the other day, like, there was some shit going on in like this mastermind that I'm in, where everyone was like, this is how we should show up right now. And I was just like really irritated by it. And I was like, no, no.
Yeah.
And so I made like, that created this energy in me. And I made this post. I was like, this is how you show up right now during the coronavirus. This is how you show up right now. This is how you show up. This is how you do it. This is no this, no that, no that, no, no, no. And I was like, fuck all of it. Right? And I just spoke my truth. And then people were like, yeah, and I got messages about it. People were like, oh my God, finally somebody said it, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you're welcome. Right? But it's like, if I were to be like, are they right? Am I doing something wrong? Should I not be selling right now? Should I be selling more right now? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how about just shut the fuck up, everyone? AKA, Genevieve, stop fucking listening to what other people have to say. What the fuck do you want? What the fuck do you feel? And I was like, bam, all right, we're going.
I love that. It's like that opportunity that we were speaking about in Boxer. Like my like biggest shift right now is like affirming to myself that I'm a good person, because I always like, I have that fear that, oh, maybe I'm just like a heartless person. But like, I feel like the fact that I find it easy to keep a high vibe and not get stressed is like my gift, and I've got to stop judging it. And like, if I know internally I'm a good person, then from there, whatever I feel called to share, like I've been thinking about, like, yeah, a lot of people are saying like, pivot your offers, pivot your content. And I'm not saying there's not a place to do that, especially if you're led, but I'm feeling into like, well, I wanted to launch my manifesting course next month. And it's like, should I be pivoting that?
Do you want to pivot it? Do you feel led to pivot it? Nope, then no.
Yeah.
It's like,
so it's just trusting the guidance.
Yeah, like you being someone who has created a business, who has built a platform, you have a voice that people want to hear, right? Which means there are people in this world who resonate with your truth and your perspective, and they're choosing to be around it. They're choosing to pay you to interact with it. They're choosing to interact with your frequencies, your codes, right? So if you pivot because some fucking marketer on the internet said to, even though that's not what you feel led to, like, it creates that lack of resonance. One, you're going to be like, oh, this doesn't feel right, or I don't want to do this, right? So you're not going to bring that same va-va-voom, right? And two, it's not going to resonate with your people, right? Like, so it's like, when you speak your truth, if you want to do business as usual, do business as usual, right? There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, like, people will be like, thank fucking God, breath of fresh air, I'm going over here, right?
Yeah.
And this is like this is where leadership occurs. It's like, be willing to speak your truth, even if other people disagree with it. Be willing to do it your way, even if other people are like, what the fuck, right? If people get mad, who cares? Like, just speak your truth. You will hear you.
I love this so much. It's like, so it's just clarified things for me. It's like exactly like you said, there's no right or wrong way, because different people and different audiences need different things. There's certainly a huge portion of people potentially that do need the more like kind of softly like, it's going to be okay kind of vibe. But that's not what I feel called to share. And I know that if I share that inauthentically, I actually attract less ideal clients by going too almost like coddling in my content, versus when I'm just myself, I attract very empowered clients who lead themselves, because I guess they resonate with my vibe about that. So yeah, thank you. That's so clarifying. And I love what you said too, because this feels so true to me, because my inner being totally agrees. I feel so much relief with this thought that like, this is like some contrast and darkness, and there's going to be so much on the other side. Because funnily enough, the only thing I've struggled with with this whole self-isolation thing is the fact that like all of my luxury travel plans got postponed. And I know that's such like a first world problem, but it's like one of my core values. And it's so like, for me, it's just like, how can I lead myself through this? I'm just gonna have to trust, like, if we can truly be, do, and have anything, and on the other hand, you're not allowed, there's no flights, international flights out of Australia. It's like, well, I guess just got to trust that the timeline's shifting, and I don't know when it's going to happen, but I still get to have what I want. Is that kind of the attitude?
Yeah, you know, I mean, like, I like having a glass of something. I like that it adds a vibe. I like that it adds like a little bit of like a beautiful vibe, right? But I'm not out here wanting to drink all day every day, right? So I'm like, this beautiful smoothie that I made today in this wine glass, right? This like, just like kind of metaphorically speaking, but also literally, right? But it's like, if you value beauty and you value experience, like where is that available to you within your current circumstances, right? Like it knowing, like instead of moving into a vibe of feeling deprived or like things aren't available or lack of resources, it's like, how can we lean into an energy and a vibe of like beauty, luxury, all the fucking vibes are still available. It's just like, it's a difference between staying at this hotel and that hotel, or like the Bohemian Hotel and like the luxe, like big glass window hotel, right? It's like they're just different experiences, but the vibe is available in both opportunities, right? Whether you're staying home, whether you're going out, whether you're, social distancing, staying at home, or you're traveling, right? Like that feeling is available to you. And when you tune into that feeling, you're going to be led to beautify the vibe or do something that you're like, I just very much appreciate it. Or like, I'm going to rearrange these flowers and that candle and like, handbag right here. Ooh, it's a vibe, right?
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny because I've been saying that to my clients all the love long week. And I get that. And I have been doing that. Like, I'm very much like, how is this serving me? How can I use this time? I'm doing a book writing workshop tomorrow. I'm deepening my feminine practices. Like, I'm getting so much out of this. But I think there's that little part of me that's like, but this will be over eventually, right? And I do get to like, go to New York again. Like, there's that like, little, yeah,
cool and better than ever. It'll be higher vibe than ever. It'll be something that you appreciate more than you ever did before.
Yeah, that's what I've been feeling too. It's like how much like the simplest things and the big dreams, like I've never felt more gratitude for the things that we're going to experience on the other side of this. I love that. That's so good. And it's so, yeah, again, it's what I've been preaching all week, but it's just sometimes you need to hear it for yourself. Amazing. And the only other thing, so I feel good, like I'm not going to pivot my plans unless I'm led, blah, blah, blah. The only other thing was that visualization you had us do about the dollar shook me because I didn't get the kind of response that I was expecting.
What were you?
When you had us visualize a dollar and like, how much effort or how much work we'd have to put into that, I lifted my pinky finger, and then like when you were like, oh, 10,000 or 50,000, I was like, oh, then I'd have to like move my whole body, and it felt like heaps of effort. And it just made me realize like there's still like a tiny little belief that like small amounts of money are less work, big amounts of money are lots of hard slug work.
So how do you feel about a penny? Like if you just found a penny on the ground?
Yeah, that feels like, I do find we don't have pennies, but like 5 cents is on the ground all the time. Yeah. Okay. That feels like I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, there you go. So it's not about necessarily trying to make a dollar feel effortless. It's about where you do feel effortlessness and compounding that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can make $10,000 in a month without trying, compound that. If that feels wobbly, you can do 5, do that. If that feels still wobbly, even though you've had 10K months, like go to where it emotionally and energetically feels stable. If it's a penny, let it be a penny. a penny you receive, or a 5-cent piece, or whatever funny money you have over there. I'm just kidding. But you know, like if wherever there's effortlessness, where you could just receive it, or you could just find it on the ground and you didn't work for it at all, it was just there, you just fully received it, it wasn't a big deal, it didn't require any work from you, it didn't require any proving it or being worthy of it, it was just there, available, right? Laughing emojis, Barbara. You know, it's just there, right? And it's like, so what is a dollar? How many pennies, right? What is $10? How many pennies? What is $5,000? It's just one penny times a multiple amount. It's just one penny.
I love that.
Right? So it's like that feeling where it's like, ooh, I actually can experience what it's like to feel effortlessness, receiving one penny, you know, 1,000,000 times, 10 million times, because it's just one penny times 10, or one penny times 1,000,000, or one penny times 10 million, or one penny times what, right?
That is so freaking good. I already have felt that shift. That is, I'm going to be like anchor in that vibe. Good. That's so good. One last thing I forgot. So you know how I signed that, because this just reminded me that I signed my new client at the new rate, and she's just like such a fucking soulmate client. It's like actually ridiculous. It's so good. And it was just easy. She found me on Google. She doesn't even follow my content. It was just so, and I want to fill 2 more of those coaching spaces, but there's a little, I'm not there yet in terms of alignment. I'm like, oh, well, it can't be that easy 2 more times. And you've never signed that many clients at that rate in 1 month. And it's like, my brain is like, well, it can't be that easy.
So one, it is that easy because it was that easy, right? You just said, God, it was so random and easy, right? She followed me. She found me on Google of all places. How fucking easy is that, right? That was your tone and that was your vibe. It was a vibe. You were just like, God, it was so easy. It can't be easy, even though it was just so easy, right? So it's not about being like, universe, I just got one and I tricked you, but now you're on to my shenanigans and you're not going to. It's like, okay, the one happened, it came because what I believe to be true, and what I know for a fact, is that energy is energy. What comes into my reality is what I'm an energetic match for and to, right? And so this client came because I was an energetic match, because I was available. It was easy. It was effortless. So is it possible that they're not coming because they're meant to come effortlessly, and I'm not in a vibe of effortless? Right? So it's like, how simple and easy was it to receive the one? Feel that again, like the pennies, 1,000 pennies, 1,000,000 pennies, 10 million pennies, one client multiplied times what? One more. Yeah. And then one more, right?
I love that, because it's just like shifted, because like I was all up in my brain and I just felt the shift. Now I'm back in my body and my heart, where I vibe with things in my heart and they become my reality. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I know how to do this. I was in a place of just like expectation without attachment, and it's just pasting that, like practicing that vibe again, and not making it mean anything that it's like a second person or a third, like none of that is relevant. It's just getting back in the vibe. And yeah, like you said, I think that a theme is like, that it gets to be this effortless, it gets to be this good, it gets to be this, like it's meant to be that.
Yeah.
So freaking good. This was gold. Thank you so much.
Oh, you are so welcome. I'm just gonna do a couple clappy emojis. They're so entertaining. I feel like I feel as though everyone feels really engaged with the clapping emojis. Do we agree?
Yeah.
Well, amazing, loves. It was so awesome talking to you. I will have this replay up either this evening or tomorrow at the latest. It'll probably be this evening. And then if anything comes up, feel free to pop it in the boxer, and I will talk to you all soon. I love you all so much. Bye.